Welcome to the Heartland Crime Stopper Show. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Today we're at the Polk County Sheriff's Office with Sheriff Grady Judd, and we're going to be speaking to Sheriff Judd about his agency. Sheriff Judd, thank you for being on the show today.
It's my honor to be with you once again.
We always have so much fun when we talk to you because there's just so much information that you like to share. And I know one of the things that we had talked about previously was the amazing crime stats that your agency has been able to bring down from the years. And tell us about some of that stuff.
First and foremost, I like to brag on the people of Polk County because of their cooperation with us. If you see something or hear something, say something, we're able to reduce crime. And let me give you an example of where we are today. And I'll start with the average big community, metro community. We are one of the largest sheriff's offices in the nation. The county population is 690,000. And you would think that we'd have a significant crime rate. For example, Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans. When you look at their crime rate, they average between 16 and 20 crimes per 100 people per year.
That doesn't seem like much to the average person.
That's huge. Our crime rate this last year was 1.4, not 14, 1.4. So 16, 1.4. And the difference is the community, how we interact together and what we accept. We don't accept criminal conduct in this community. Our crime rate went down 7% from last year, once again, where it was 1.52. So at the end of the day, when we look at data, and we started collecting data as a nation in 1971, reliable data from Uniform Crime Reports.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Our
crime today is lower than it's been in 49 years.
That's amazing. I think it's like what I read, like 79% less than it was
Absolutely.
From that time, which is amazing.
79% less. And that's a staggering amount of reduction. But it's because we work with the community, we work with all the police departments, we work with the state attorney's office, but we create a culture that we don't accept criminal conduct. It's just like, if you will, a home. If you go into one person's home and the mother and father are either absent or very permissive and they let their children run wild, then you're going to have misconduct. If you go into another home where the parents have guidelines and say, if you cross this guidelines, you're going to be responsible and accountable. And there's going to be a punishment, then you don't have those children in that home out of control. Well, that's the difference between a Detroit, a Chicago, a Baltimore. They allow crime to run wild there. Regardless of what they tell you, they allow it to occur as a system. And then they say, well, we'll hire more police. Well, police is not the answer. There's sufficient police there to hold people accountable. But if your criminal justice system doesn't hold people accountable, if your community and your neighborhood doesn't hold people accountable, then the police are just the scapegoats. We're blessed here because we have a community, we have a criminal justice system, we have rules and regulations in the state of Florida, and we go, look, we're going to hold people accountable for wrong conduct. So while Florida's crime rate is also at a 49-year low, just like Polk County's, our crime rate is less than half of the average of the state of Florida here at the Sheriff's Office and our cities that we police.
Which is an amazing stat that for being, like I say, one of the largest agencies and the landmass that we have, that our crime rate in Polk County, like you say, is half of the state average.
And I like to talk about technology. When people started putting cameras on their homes and cameras at their businesses, guess what? Crime goes down. Why? Because people that are wanting to commit crime don't want to be on your camera. And if they do commit crime and they're on the camera, then we catch them and put them in jail before they can do the next burglary and the next burglary and the next burglary or the next robbery, the next robbery and the next robbery. So technology at your home or at your business is good. I tell everyone, when you do that, have one of your cameras pointing out across the parking lot toward the road, because we like to see who's passing by on the roadway. The people in this community, when we go to them and say, hey, can we look at your videos? We had a robbery a half mile down the road. They're overtly cooperative. And that is what makes the difference. We look at the technology. We look at the abilities. Back in the day when you and I policed, we didn't have cameras in stores.
Absolutely not.
And it was easy to go in and rob stores and get away with it because nobody knew who you were. Well, today we have your picture. And they go, well, they can wear a mask. Well, they can. But you know what they can't disguise? They can't disguise the gait in their walk. They can't disguise the clothes that they're wearing. And after all, they have their mask on when they go in this store to rob it. But they don't have their mask on when they go in the store to use the money or spend the money. So at the end of the day, we network with our community and our technology, and we see how we can be ultimately successful by putting bad guys in jail with technology. That's made a difference. Solving crime, investigating murders. We had to do it the old-fashioned way with shoe leather back in the day. If there wasn't a witness, we didn't have physical evidence. I mean, we could have blood at the scene and they can say, yeah, it's type A positive, it's type O. That's all they could do. We have blood at the scene now. We can put it in a database, track the DNA, and they go, oh, by the way, the guy with the same DNA was booked 4 years ago for DUI. We never had that. We solve more crime today because of technology and cooperation of the community than we ever could have solved in the decades before.
It's just so amazing, like I say, how far those investigative techniques have come, and the important thing is how you keep track of those and how you change with the time and learn how to work them to your advantage. It's just, like you say, the DNA databases. I recall when I first started, the Miranda rights had just come out and people were lamenting the fact that, well, they're never going to talk to us. But there's so many tools that are available to investigators these days, and to, like you say, the citizens, just using cameras and being aware if they see something, say something.
Well, we talked about the Real-Time Crime Center a few minutes ago before we went on air. We've got a 24/7 real-time crime center. Think about this. You were dispatched a call back in the day, and you showed up at the business or you showed up at the house. And if it was your area that you worked over and over and over, you may have a knowledge about who lived there and what the problems were. Today, when you're dispatched to that same house, we're able to tell you through our real-time crime center, oh, the owner of that house has an outstanding warrant. His name's Grady Judd. And by the way, when you get to Grady Judd's house, he's had 3 armed disturbances there in the last month, which have resulted in his arrest. And oh, by the way, not only does he have an outstanding warrant, not only have we been there 3 times, not only has the cops been shot at there before, but he's a convicted felon. So if he is there today with a gun, no, he's already a convicted felon. That data comes to you before you even arrive at the scene. And that's because we have a 24/7 real-time crime center. If somebody complains that, hey, I saw on Facebook that they're going to put a bomb in the school tomorrow. Well, it used to be that we might send a patrol deputy or a patrol officer out to talk to you, or we might follow up the next day, or in some cases, some agencies never followed up because, oh, it's just kids talking. Our real-time crime center was created 24/7 with the children in mind and the school safety in mind. So now if a threat comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no holding it for the day shift. There's no, well, the detectives will be out later. If there is writing on the walls, there is no, we'll deal with it later. The Real-Time Crime Center grabs that information and starts that investigation overnight through our intelligence systems. Where you say, well, how do they do that? We've got all the cameras of all the schools plugged in to our real-time crime center. There are rules that we can only look at that camera during an emergency. But if there's a threat that comes out of the bathroom in one of those schools, the real-time crime center pulls that camera data up, looks at it and goes, well, that's Billy Bob. He's the one that during that period of time went in that bathroom that, oh, by the way, Billy Bob's got a criminal history. We got him last month or last year for writing bomb threats on the walls. So our real-time crime center, if you will, if you think of the detective as the complete human body, the real-time crime center is the legs. They do all the work, all the technological work, and tell the detective, look at this group of people as a suspect. Beware of this group of people. Did you know about this group of people that have been arrested in the past? So what they do is they take all these records, not just from the National Crime Center and the State Crime Center, but they link other police departments and sheriff's offices' data together. And in addition to that, they go to open source Facebook and go, here's this Facebook picture holding the stolen gun where he broke in last night. That's what our real-time crime center does. And they operate 24/7 so that we're always there for the sole purpose of protecting and keeping the community safe and lowering the crime rate.
There's so much information I want to still get from you on the Real-Time Crime Center, but we'll take a quick break, and if you don't mind, Sheriff, we're going to take a look at some of our most recent cases.
The Lakeland Police Department has confirmed with the District 10 Medical Examiner's Office that the human remains located on July 29th near the 2000 block of West Bella Vista Street are those of Takira Adderley. Adderley, 22 years old, had been reported missing by her family to the Lakeland Police Department on June 30th. On July 7th, Adderley's vehicle was located abandoned in southeast Lakeland. Evidence from her vehicle recovery led investigators to identify a person of interest in Adderley's disappearance. This remains an open and active investigation. No other details will be released at this time to protect the integrity of this investigation. Anyone with information related to the case is encouraged to contact Detective Corey Lawson at 863-834-8975 or 863-559-5137 or corey.lawson@lakelandgov.net. Detectives are seeking the public's help in identifying this person in connection with an attempted armed robbery that took place in the 1300 block of Kathleen Road on June 30th. Rosa Maria Sanchez Beto has 2 local warrants, one for neglect of a child without great harm and one for failure to appear for petty theft. If you know of any information regarding Rosa Maria Sanchez Beto, contact the Hardy County Sheriff's Office at 863-773-4144. On Sunday, July 19th, Lakeland police responded to a report of shots fired in the area of 1000 Monroe Street at approximately 9:24 p.m. When officers arrived on scene, they found a female victim inside her residence with gunshot wounds. The 25-year-old victim was declared deceased at the scene by Polk County Fire Rescue at 9:29 p.m. If anyone has any information related to the case, please contact Detective Hatchcock at tammy.hatchcock@lakelandgov.net or 863-834-6975.
If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to the Heartland Crime Stoppers Show. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Today we're talking to Sheriff Grady Judd with some very interesting facts about how he and his agency keeps Polk County safe. Now, Grady, just before we went to the break there and looked at our cases, we were talking about the Real-Time Crime Center. Now, I know there's a lot involved in that, and picking the right personnel is so very important for that, isn't it?
Sure. Our Real-Time Crime Center, we call it the Zulu Center because we use the phonetic alphabet, you would think would be made up of all cops, right? Wrong. You know who we really like to have working as our crime analyst in the Zulu Center?
I can only imagine.
Very young men and women who love technology, are proficient with social media, understand computers, and grew up with them. In fact, when we went 24/7, my request of our staff was, go find me, in my terminology, not theirs, kids. I want 22, 23, 24-year-old kids who have college degrees or are getting their college degree. I want kids who grew up with technology. We'll teach them the police aspect. What we want them to do is come here with their computer savvy knowledge and expertise. So when we take these very young folks who've grown up with computers now, who are technically proficient, and we say, here's this database, and here's this database, and here's this database, and here's this, and here's this, how can you make magic work? I have seen those young folks who are not cops, who are not detectives, figure out, based upon information that they received from an emergency dispatch originally, well, this person's really not your suspect, this person's your suspect, we think, because they've got a criminal history that shows they act like that. And they present information and develop suspects from history. And you say, how do they do that? It's really simple. Future behavior is predicated by past conduct. Or you can say past behavior will indicate future conduct. But people are if you would say, animals of their own existence, where they're comfortable. What they do every day, whether it's they get up in the morning, they brush their teeth, then they eat breakfast, or they eat breakfast, then brush their teeth, or whether they get their coffee, everybody has their systems and their practices.
Absolutely, yes.
So do criminals. So when we figure out that pattern of criminal conduct, we know uninterrupted the criminals continue their conduct because they're looking for high profit and low risk. Well, what that Zulu Center represents is high risk based upon their previous conduct. And that's how the whole system works.
I kind of equate it to looking at a crossword puzzle where you have certain clues that don't make sense most of the time, and once you figure out what the answer to that clue is, it helps you solve the other block, if you will, and how you build upon that, and that's how you solve that puzzle, is just getting the information and following the clues and knowing what you're looking for.
They just do it online.
Yeah. And it's so amazing because I know, thinking of myself when I'm trying to learn a new program on the computer, how to operate something, And even with these social media programs and some of the investigative tools they can use online, they have to know how to operate that program. And like you say, these young folks that already have that general knowledge just pick up on that so fast, and just such a wise use of personnel.
Well, and you think about it. If you own a home, the ownership is listed in the public database, right? So you just go look to see who owns the home. And you go, if they're renting, you go to see who owns the home, and then you call the homeowner and say, who are you renting to? It's all, as you said, just a big crossword puzzle that we can now figure out at lightning speed because of technology. Think about it. It still amazes me that you and I can buy a cell phone in Lakeland, Florida. You can get on a plane and fly to Australia and turn that phone on. I can dial your local number from Lakeland, Florida, and my cell phone will find you in Australia on the other end of the world. That's the power of what we're using to keep you safe through the use of technology.
Absolutely. Now, I know that the federal government, has been working on what they call fusion centers, which is like your Zulu Center. And the thing that you're offering now county-wide through the Zulu Center is not just for the sheriff's office. I mean, you're here to assist and get that information to our agencies here in Polk.
That's correct. We are the Zulu Center for every law enforcement agency. And do you know how we determine the priority of what we work on? And you might say, well, what? Well, if a deputy has a request and a city police officer has a request, you would think, well, they work on the deputy's request first because the sheriff's office runs it. No. We work on the greatest need first. So if the local police officer calls in, or detective, or agency and says, hey, we got an emergency and we need this going on. If it's a greater emergency than what the deputy's working on, we go work on the police case first. And that feeds up through the fusion centers based upon terrorism and protecting the country. So we interact with all the fusion centers all over the country. The New York City Police Department has a fantastic fusion center, or Zulu Center, or real-time crime center. We deal directly with them because the people in New York City end up in Lakeland, Florida, and the people in Lakeland, Florida end up in New York City. So at the end of the day, we transfer information on criminal conduct that we're working on or that New York's working on seamlessly through these fusion centers or Zulu centers. Very few local law enforcement agencies in this nation have a 24/7 real-time crime center. But Polk County does, because we care about the community and we want to do everything we can to keep everyone safe every day.
I know back in the years ago, there was a lack of communication, lack of trust, whatever, among agencies, especially among levels, federal, state, county. Everybody wanted to have their own little thing, didn't really want to share it. And I'm seeing, and perhaps you can elaborate on it, a real willingness, a real understanding that that's not helping to solve crime. You have to communicate back and forth and share.
No, those barriers that used to be prevalent in the old time, what I call the old time policing, when police agencies held stuff close to the vest and didn't share it, the only ones that won were the criminals. Well, we've taken an entirely different approach in the last decade or two. We've said, look, who are we keeping this a secret from? The criminals know it. This one police agency knows it, but the police agency that needs to know it doesn't know it because this police agency is not sharing, so the criminal who already knows that we're on to them, or that an agency's on to them, we're only keeping secrets from ourselves. We're not keeping it from the bad guys. So we had a totally different philosophy. And if you still subscribe to that old police philosophy about holding it close to the vest and not sharing it, you perish in this business. In in our new philosophy, you perish. You go to the sideline and you're not relevant anymore. The relevant law enforcement officers are the ones that are robust and are game on with the Zulu centers and their colleagues from other agencies, both at federal, state, and local.
I know just a thing that I've been involved in over the years was the Polk County Intelligence Unit. And that's a monthly meeting, before we had the real-time crime center that you have now. But it was, I guess, maybe an early pretext to that, where you would have detectives come in once a month, share their unsolved cases, maybe share their trends. Hey, we've been having a bunch of thefts of semi-trailers or semi-tires or smash and grabs. And somebody else say, yeah, we've had some too. We arrested some kids. So that was the pretense to that. But it's amazing that you not only have the agencies from here in Polk come in, but you'll see them come in from Hillsborough County, from Orange County, from Sumter County.
Sure.
And it's just taking on that and what you've learned and be able to build.
And now using crime analysts and technology, you don't have to lose the whole day's labor coming to a physical meeting when you're just scouring for information on a crime. You just put that data into a real-time crime center, or you have your analysts say, hey, put this out in our systems and our colleagues, and then the analysts do the work and come back to the detectives with the information.
Yeah, it's so important, as my father used to say, don't work harder, just work smarter.
That's right.
Well, Sheriff Judd, we thank you for your time. I know you've got a busy schedule, but on behalf of Polk County and the residents of the state of Florida, we thank you for what you're doing, your agency, and the leadership you provided, and we just want to say thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be the sheriff and to lead a professional law enforcement agency and work with such great police departments and state and federal officials. So we'll work hard to keep you safe. God bless you all.
If you'd like to leave a tip with Crime Stoppers, you can reach us at 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 1-800-226-8477. If you'd like to leave a web tip, you can do it again by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and submit a web tip, or look for our app on your mobile device. We thank you for watching our show today. And remember, it's a crime, and you can help make sure that they don't get away with it.